to Wrestle Talk episode 19. Today we'll be talking about AEW. Now, now, you know how I've been critical of their project in the past. Well, I have to say, since then my opinion has changed, at least a little bit. So you know how I say how it's just, I complained about it a lot. Well, I actually watched the product a little bit, and it's better than it actually is reported. That is actually being reported. The only thing I would say, the one point they're lacking at is women's wrestling. Other than that, they have everything else pretty much in the bag. Except a few storylines, but I'm going to talk about what I've liked about it and what I don't. So, my opinion has since changed about AEW a lot. I kind of like a few matches I saw. For instance, I watched the pre-scrub, which is not the post, but the one where they talk about the matches, like the pre-show for WWE. Some of their matches have been very good. I remember watching one women's match, and that was one women's match that I watched from AEW that I generally liked. And that's because, in my opinion, they gave them time to work with. They gave them 15 minutes, and it was superb, in my own words. It was very good. And if they gave more time, and I feel like a lot of the women's wrestlers could wrestle, but it's partially lack of time, lack of care. But this showed that it was Willow Nightingale versus, what's her face? I forgot who her opponent was, her tag team partner. Not Kip Sabian, that's a guy. Okay. Chris Statlander, yeah, the former TBS Women's Champion. Yeah, it was both of them. They had an entertaining match. And I feel like that AEW could do more with the women's wrestler if they wanted to. But there's a few wrestlers that just make things look a little bit, wrestling is fake, but they make it look even worse. But the way they could, in my opinion, the way they could help this is, first of all, having a training camp, for wrestlers to improve their skills while they're still wrestling. Because a lot of these come from the independent scene where things are different. It doesn't have to look as, real as possible in the indie scene most of the time. It should still look good, but it doesn't have to be, look as real. But one thing I do have to say is that a lot of the AEW wrestlers are very talented. And to get off of the bad stuff, I definitely have to say AEW has some very entertaining men's matches and tag team matches. And I have to admit that they have some really young, good, talented stars there compared to any other company. WWE has some good young talent, but AEW is where I particularly think that they get to shine a lot more. They have Rush. I say Rush. You could say Roosh Rush, I guess. But then there's Darby Allin, one of my favorite AEW wrestlers. There's Jack Perry or Jungle Boy. I prefer Jungle Boy compared. But then there's like. But these. And then there's like. For every young talent, there's someone who's pro. Chris Jericho. Jon Moxley. For every one of them, there's a pro to help them succeed in the wrestling world. And I like how the fact. I like that the matches are. There's less talking and more wrestling compared to WWE. That's not an opinion, but it is what technically the truth. And an opinion at the same time. So you know what I'm saying? It's a truthfully real opinion, okay? There's more talking in WWE to build a story, as where in AEW the wrestling tells the stories most of the time, unless they have they do have a few speaking moments. Well, every wrestling show has to do that to build storylines, but they do it sparingly, not filling they have 2 hours and they use the 2 hours fully and interestingly. The problem with Raw is that it's 3 hours, and 3 of those hours, and maybe a good 50 of it, and there's 10% wrestling or more. There's 50% commercials, 50% talk. Put that all together, and it's half wrestling, half that. Now, the only other thing to complain about AEW is the pay-per-view prices. I'm saying that they're Warner Brothers, aka the owners of HBO Max, who all merged as a company, could have, this is a good question, but they could have had AEW pay-per-views there. But right now, as it stands, their pay-per-views are $50. And I feel like that's a little bit unreasonable. Not for the quality that you're getting, but for the average American. Let's say they did a pay-per-view every month. That would almost be $1,000. Probably more. There's 12 months. At least 1,000. And if they did that yearly, you'll be spending a couple grand on it, year after year after year, which is ultimately not. It's for a wrestling show. It ain't worth it. I at least know the limits. To some people, it could be worth it, but that's the reason why if I could, just, talk about and wrestling other people do, watch it and talk about it without. There's a way to work around that, but the thing is, I have not had no reason to be let's watch Monday Night Raw and review it. I had no reason to absolutely do that for either one. But if I did, I would probably, how it would work would be, well, as to, but overall, AEW's product is as good as WWE, but there's some improvement areas that they could absolutely make, in my opinion. And that's all the time we have for today. This is a Doom Majority. Goodbye.